Welcome everyone to today's webinar, part 19 in our customer story series, Transparency is the New Green in Product Selection, Specification, and Procurement. We have a particularly interesting group of folks here with us today around the topic of circular building materials. And because it's a new topic for many people, we've invited Francis Young from Arup to kick things off and set the stage to explain what is the circular economy around building materials, how is it being measured, what are the strategies, what are the goals that have been set out, and what's going on currently, followed by our special guests from FreeAxez and Continuus materials to talk about how their products are contributing to the circular economy, how they're circular building materials. And I think you'll come away from this presentation really kind of with new eyes. You ever heard the expression, you get a new hammer, everything's a nail? I think you're going to start seeing how many kinds of things that are happening do fall under this umbrella of circular building materials, circular economy, and really what can we all be doing to take advantage of the new strategies going forward. Our webinar series, Transparency is the New Green, is all about featuring those building product manufacturers who have been investing in product transparency, both to understand the environmental impacts of their own products to make improvements, as well as the material health. And they're here to tell you those stories about why they've made the commitment to transparency, what they've learned from doing the transparency documentation, and really the whole strategy and positioning around their products, and to show you then great case studies and applications of how they're being used. The transparency catalog, which I'm going to show you a demo, some new things a little bit later, we designed particularly to showcase those manufacturers like the two you're going to meet today who have made the investment in transparency, and not just to create the disclosures, but to really deeply understand what the impacts are of their products on the environment and human health. And just creating disclosures really isn't enough anymore today. Really what it's all about is taking that information, driving it back into product development, and creating actually higher performing products. Those brands that are doing that and can tell those stories and explain what they're doing to improve are the brands that we all want to do business with. We want to support their efforts, we want to use their products, and we want to create really a higher performing built environment. So here's the agenda for today. I'm going to do a quick introduction to Sustainable Minds and the Transparency Catalog for those of you who are new, followed by Francis, who's actually going to go first and set the stage around the circular economy and built environment, followed by Bridgett, and then followed by Earl, so not in the order of the agenda slide. I'm going to do a quick demo of the transparency catalog so you can see how to find their products, and then we'll do Q&A. Now, this webinar is being recorded. You will get a link to the recording in the next day or two. If you'd like to get a copy of the deck, you're able to request that as well. There's some questions on the way out when you leave the webinar that you'll be able to do that, and leave us any other comments that you have about your experience of the webinar today. We will try to answer questions at the end. If we don't get your questions answered, we will definitely follow up and get you where you need to be. All right, so those of you who are new to Sustainable Minds, we're a software company. I'm the founder and CEO, I'm Terry Swack. I founded the company in 2007, so transparency, life cycle assessment, not new to us. And our mission has always been to simplify and standardize and operationalize environmental performance and now material health into the way manufacturers do business. So it's simply part of the way they do business and make products. We became a program operator in 2012 after LEED version 4 was drafted and introduced product transparency and the use of EPDs to earn credits in the LEED version 4 standard. And after evaluating the current state of EPDs, we couldn't really understand how an architect, engineer, contractor, owner would use a traditional EPD. It's pretty data intensive to make decisions about products for buildings. And so we became a program operator to really revolutionize how EPDs not only get created, but the content that's in them, so that they actually become an integrated marketing tool that integrate transparency with product marketing. So everything somebody would want to know about a product is all in one place and made understandable so that people can make informed trade-off decisions. And to do that easily, we deliver LCA and material evaluation services because we have to have that technical expertise in-house to both be a program operator as well as to deliver products and services that are credible and robust. And finally, in 2016, delivering the transparency catalog, which has grown at the rate at which transparency has been adopted in the industry, from 350 manufacturers in 2016 having invested in transparency to today over 1,500 manufacturers and industry associations. And so if all of this activity is going to be operationalized into the way businesses make and market products, then having an end-to-end solution that help them make better disclosures, i.e. marketing tools, and get their brands and products out in front of those people who really do care and want to select, specify, and ultimately procure those products. Everything we do across the board is in service of growing the market and achieving those results. The last thing I'm going to talk about on kind of the intro topic, again, about transparency, it's really all about performance. So environmental performance and material health are two performance criteria, just like functional performance, aesthetic, safety, cost. These are criteria that people use to make decisions about products. Now, environmental performance and material health, which are also part of the definition of high performance when it's applied to buildings, are meaningful criteria that people are using to make decisions. Sometimes not necessarily the most important criteria, but it's definitely in the mix. And for certain very motivated and very focused practitioners, it's in the top sector of the list of making trade-off decisions. And so once again, it's really important that that information be understandable, made accessible, and that manufacturers are able to explain what that information means relative to the way they make and market their products. So that's what you're going to hear about today, is what these manufacturers have been doing, and also how Sustainable Minds really is committed to revolutionizing the way that products get selected, specified, and procured in the service of helping these brands really grow and be leaders in the marketplace. And then everybody wins. High performance buildings get built. The manufacturers who are really doing great work and making great products are the ones who are being rewarded. And that's ultimately how we're going to get to a higher performing built environment and kind of planet we all want to be living on. At the end, I'm going to show you how we've taken all the data from the catalog, which now is quite significant in terms of number of manufacturers, the number of divisions, number of master format sections, and we've introduced now this analytics dashboard where we've made all of the data about the performance and usage of the catalog available to the manufacturers who have added their products to the catalog and are making their content available. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that, how interesting the activity in certain master format divisions is, where people are coming from, and so on and so forth. But to kick things off on our topic today, I'm going to turn things over to Frances and take it away.
Okay, thanks, Terry, and good day, everybody. So as Terry said, I'm going to just give a quick introduction to circularity, circular economy in the built environment, especially for anyone who's not familiar yet. And I am from Arup. I work in the San Francisco office normally. I lead the sustainable materials practice for our Americas region. And Arup has been a longtime partner with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is the international leading organization on circular economy. We've produced a number of publications. This is just some of them that are particular about the built environment. So I encourage you to go to their website and you can do some more reading on these publications if you like. So really, the circular economy is about changing the way that we are currently, our current model of a linear economy, take, make, use, and dispose, and how that's really not working. And the current linear economy is leading to an incredible amount of waste, particularly in construction. So what circular economy envisions is to really change this model and look at what we use after we're done with it to remake it, and that we're not taking virgin materials from our planet and all these natural resources, but that we are looking at waste as a source of materials and really even what we call a nutrient. And one of the biggest drivers for needing to change is because of the amount of emissions and the climate impact that our built environment has had. While traditionally, for a long time, the built environment was only thought of in terms of the operational energy emissions and how those greenhouse gases affect our climate. I think, there's been an awakening in the last few years that the materials of our built environment are also an enormous source of emissions. This is the pie chart is from Architecture 2030, where you see that concrete, steel, and aluminum, it includes infrastructure too, but these materials are concrete, definitely really only used in the built environment, and then steel and aluminum, about half of that is still for construction. And those amounts are enormous, almost as much as building operations. And we know that we have a limited time to reduce these greenhouse gases. The IPCC tells us, that there's these different trajectories. And really at UC, we see now a lot of organizations acknowledging and committing to the goal, a collective goal of reaching zero by 2050 in order to mitigate for irreversible climate change, or the catastrophic kind of climate change. The other reason I think that, besides greenhouse gas emissions and kind of like the effects in emissions and what we're putting out to the environment, there's also what we're taking, right? And so this chart, I think, is a really good depiction of the idea of scarcity and how long are these natural resources that a lot of them we take for granted, that they're finite and they are not going to last. We're not going to be able to draw from the earth to use them forever. So we need to be more careful about and mindful about how we're using our resources. Even something as simple and you think as common as sand, that we might think that's quite ubiquitous and that there's plenty of it. Just to show anecdotally, for example, there's been so much need for sand in just 2 year span by all the construction that's been happening in China and the enormous amount of growth there, and again compared to the 100 years of what the US has used. And it's not, to be trying to point fingers or anything. It's surely just to demonstrate the amount of growth that we're looking at and around the world, again, mostly in construction. So now, how do we change this model? And how can circularity look for the built environment? This diagram, it's often referred to as the butterfly diagram. It's a interpretation that Ellen MacArthur has come up with that I think is inspired a lot by the cradle-to-cradle principles from Madonna and Brancard. And I think what's nice about it is this illustration of how you can divide our nutrients and resources and activities into these biological and technical loops. So there's these two types of loops, and then within those, there's what these circles are also demonstrating is that we want to get towards the more inner loops, that those are more resource efficient, less carbon intensive, less emissions, less pollution to our environment if we can move from the outside to the inside. And I think what's also important to note here is that for a long time, I think our society has thought, okay, we're doing great on, if we can do great on recycling, then that's good enough, and that's meeting our goals. But really, what this is showing is that recycling is just the edge, and that to lead to the kinds of circularity and resource efficiency that we really want to get to, we need to move more inwards, and that involves things like refurbishment, reuse, prolonging the life of our assets, sharing, and really enabling a lot of that through the collective and collection and digital tools that we can create together. So with that, that's a rather high level philosophy and concept. Arup took a stab at layering that onto the built environment and the process of construction, the typical process of construction. And where you see in here, there's this linear traditional method. If we layer on all of those loopbacks, then we see an enormous amount of opportunity and all these other types of value chains that we can create that will, again, utilize those resources better. The other concept that kind of a framework and a way of thinking that we've found helpful is this idea of resolve, and that stands for regenerate, share, optimize, loop, virtualize, and exchange. And it's just a way of giving some more specificity to what it means to change our construction business models. So we furthered that by taking the idea of the building layers that we have. And this is really important in thinking about circularity, because the life of different building and components, they relate strongly to the layer that they are in a building, and that we churn through the inner layers, the stuff and the services even, and much more, that's like furniture and MEP and interiors. We churn that through that much more quickly than we do the skin and the structure, and of course the site of the building. So now when we think about resolve, and so regenerating, sharing, optimizing, looping back, virtualizing, and exchanging, within those layers, there's actually quite a lot of examples, and this is in one of the Ellen MacArthur publications that you can download for free, and you'll see that there's a lot of examples of activities happening already, and I hope that that'll give people a point of reference to see and be inspired in how we really can move to these more circular business models. And Arup ourselves, we also try to demonstrate this through a real physical building. This is called the circular building that was built at the London Design Festival a few years ago. And the primary tenet of this building design was that every single component that went into it had to have a destination after the life in this building. So it had to be, there had to be a way to disassemble it, for it to be reusable and serve another purpose. And we also learned that really important to this is the idea of information. And this is in interiors, and you can sort of see here these little labels, these little placards that were all around, and what those were these QR codes that allowed people to learn more about that component, but also demonstrated how you could have information and how essential it would be to have information that came along with every component and product, to give people the knowledge they needed to be able to reuse that component. So again, this is where I think it's also demonstrates that the importance of transparency, right? And how Sustainable Minds is, it's all about transparency, and that we need to know enough about our products to know, are they going to do they contain anything that is hazardous if we want to recycle or even put them back into the environment as a biological loop. There's just how to technically reuse something. What's all of the information that we need to be assured that that we can and that we can have peace of mind in reusing things, as well as the logistical issues of reusing. And then here, this is the business case, and showing the financial opportunity as well, that this isn't just to do good and for the planet and for ourselves, but there's actually a financial incentive if we were to think more long term about the end of the building life. So this is a case study from the Building Circular Future book that is also a free download by FreeAxez and Geertgens architects, and they this isn't Danish, sorry, so it's not our currency, but it does show like taking these two different paths, the traditional demolition versus designing for disassembly and reuse. How much the investment of they felt the delta, the premium of 0.35% to design for disassembly and enable that use could lead to actually up to a 16% return at the end of the building life in about 50 years. So that was quite, to me, that was quite eye-opening and a strong example of the other kind of incentives that we could have with following a more circular economy model. So all of this could feel a little bit overwhelming, and I can understand that. I mean, the buildings are complex, they're large and full of lots and lots and lots of products and systems. And so I think what's important to think about is just where to start and how to play a part in this. For our Arup, and in our group particular, we've gotten involved in a particular initiative that was underpinned by realizing a particular area of the built environment that doesn't get a lot of attention right now, and which is commercial interiors, and in thinking about circular economy for commercial interiors and reusing the components instead of the churn that we see. And this is due to realizing the amount of renovation and demolition that comes from commercial. I think that the reuse market and salvage and reuse, there's, it's been in existence in residential, and people have utilized the kind of the infrastructure, the ecosystem for that for a while, but there's not really been anything to address commercial. So we also saw from a Carbon Leadership Forum study that the amount of churn and the carbon emissions from all of those materials can really add up over the life of a building. And we've seen that there's been a lot of attention in thinking about embodied carbon. There's been a lot of attention on the core and shell and what they call the upfront embodied carbon that's mostly from structure and envelope. But when you start to look at all of the interiors and MEP that initially might not be a lot in comparison, over the life of the building, it really adds up. So all of that we thought really deserves some attention. And the again, the potential, the opportunity to go from using virgin materials for all of these different interiors components versus, you know, the little bit of transport and processing emissions in reusing materials instead. Again, that could be up to 99% for reduction in some of these product categories. And if you add all of that up with how much we are building and renovating, that could be an enormous amount of savings, even if we were to only do that for 50% of the interiors. So that really led to this realization that there is the supply as well, but not the demand. And you know, what was it that's not happening right now? It's because there's not a strong and a robust infrastructure for commercial reuse, because there's not the demand. And so then we envisioned this initiative called All for Reuse, and that we, as a you know, working with owners, developers, and tenants, quite often we could help to generate a collective of organizations that could create that demand. So All for Reuse is the name of this group that I co-founded, and the goals are really to reduce the waste and emissions, foster new circular economy businesses, and accelerate that rate of change. And if you're interested, then please come to our website. And we also hope that you'll point other developers, owners, and tenants that you think would be interested in such an initiative. Please have them visit us as well. So finally, I just wanted to take one more step back and remind people that circular economy, I think what is also unique and what is inspiring about it is the economy part, because I think a lot of the circularity principles, you could say, are similar to things that we've been saying in about sustainability and sustainability principles. But what I like about circular economy is that it's really trying to change the business models, and that we're pairing business strategy with design strategy, and that is necessary to move us forward. So I'm excited that I get to co-present with the next two speakers, who are going to talk a lot about how they are creating new business models, and why you know, we can see that is those are essential pieces to moving us forward with circular economy. The next speaker
Princess.
is Bridgett.
That was great. And Bridgett, just keep it going.
I was going to put on my camera in case people just wanted to see me, but I'm very excited to be here today. And thank you, Frances, for that great introduction on circularity. I'm the Sustainability Director for Continuous Materials, but my path before that, I interfaced with two really wonderful leaders. One was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I served as the Director of the Department of Conservation. One of my responsibilities was oversee the beverage container recycling program, and I learned a couple of things from that. One is we're really good at collecting bottles and cans. And the second thing is government policies can really impact change, and I was there when the governor signed the Global Warming Solutions Act. But I also realized that as regulators, we sit at the end of the pipe and we try to figure out how much stuff we can have in our bodies, our air, and our water before it will kill us. And I got very inspired by the book Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things, and the whole idea of let's just make things that won't kill us in a way that actually has a positive impact on the planet. So I left the governor's administration and I went to work with Bill and Michael to bring the Cradle to Cradle certification into the public. And now in my role at Continuus, I'm deeply involved in circular thinking and making things that have a circularity to them. And I'm always reminded of what Bill used to tell me, there is no way. And Continuus, we're absolutely committed to making a product using waste streams. And our goal is to reduce landfill waste by 500,000 tons a year very soon. We just started, we've only been in business for a couple of years, but we are tackling that right now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our product and what we're doing, and I want to show a little video.
In the US, 40 million tons of paper and plastic are needlessly put in a landfill every year, wasting valuable raw materials. But we have a solution. Introducing Everboard by Continuus Materials. Everboard is manufactured from a proprietary blend of post-industrial and post-consumer plastic and paper. Our patented process mines valuable materials from a variety of sources. The materials are sorted, cleaned, and shredded to form our raw material, which is then pressed to form Everboard. The boards are then delivered to the job site for easy installation. Everboard has unparalleled severe weather performance characteristics, and it's sustainable. When the roof reaches the end of its life cycle, these boards can then be reclaimed to help produce new ones. A circular solution. Superior performance, while also helping to solve the world's waste crisis. Everboard from Continuus Materials.
So I hope that gives a little bit of an overview of what we're trying to do, take waste and make it into a product. And our process is pretty straightforward. We are actually the last stop before the landfill. So we don't harvest PET or HDPE or any of the materials like aluminum that already have really great markets. What we're after is that thin plastic film that nobody knows what to do with and contaminated paper. So we don't even take cardboard. We take the paper that is on its way to landfill, the pizza box that they can't figure out.
With the dog food container, the cartons, all those things go into our product process. It's sorted, it's separated, it's pressed. And that was the great thing about getting the HPD and EPDs, because then we can really say, look, there's nothing else in there but a bunch of leftover waste. Our impact's pretty big. For every 2,000 pounds of trash that we pick up and put into our board, we will create 1,000 square feet of our product, Everboard. Our business model is circular, and it's also scalable. There's lots of waste out there that's not going anywhere. Nobody else wants it. We figured out a really scalable solution because in the US, we're re-roofing 1 billion square feet a year. So if you think about it, even if we have a small share of that market, we will be upcycling a lot of material. And we're absolutely committed to taking our product back at end of use. We're already doing it. So the trims that we take off, we actually throw them back into the system and they go into our boards. So after 15 or 20 years, you're finished with your roof, you bring it back to us, we'll chop it up and make it into new boards. We've staffed our team with people from the building industry because at the end of the day, we are really about building products. If you don't know what a roof cover board is, the frame of the building, it's on low slope roofs, it's big commercial warehouses and those kinds of things. And then there's insulation. The cover board goes on top and then a poly cover on top of that. We will actually take that poly cover as well and recycle it. And here's just a picture of our board. It's pressed waste destined for landfill with a fiberglass facing on top to prevent fire and also a craft paper on the bottom. So super simple product that we started producing a couple years ago. You know, you can be green, but you've also got to perform. So when the whole green products thing started, a lot of people had green products, but they just weren't as good as what was out there. Ours is good, and it's even better when it comes to very severe hail, spanability, moisture resistance, and those kinds of things. So we're super excited about having a sustainability profile as well as a high performance. Our Everboard is being used by lots of different customers. We're very excited about our new partnership with Craft because they're actually specifying our roof on all of their buildings. Here's some more of our buildings. In the last 2 years, we diverted over 10 million pounds of destined for landfill material. Super excited. The upper right-hand corner is West Rock, and West Rock's recycled paper facing goes on one side of our board, and now this board is on their roof in a truly circular business model because we're using their material and we're putting it on their roof. I also want to give a shout out to Carlisle, who is one of the largest roofing suppliers in the country, and they have private labeled ours into something called EcoStorm, which you can find as well. Yep, we have unparalleled performance, easy to install, and it's sustainable But what we want to make sure, and one of the reasons that we have worked with Sustainable Minds, is that we need to be transparent about we're not putting any additives in our product. Thankfully, the Healthy Product Collaborative has come up with a mixed recycled plastic piece so that we could actually go into that new section and get an HPD on our product. Because at the end of the day, you can be as sustainable as you want, but you also have to kind of prove it. So we're all excited to be part of Sustainable Minds, to have what our product's made of and how it's made. And this wasn't easy for us because we're basically a startup. So when we were trying to get our EPA, our EPD, we had to get a life cycle analysis. We hadn't been in production very long, but we were able to work it out. And we're very proud to have our products listed on the Sustainable Minds website. We're also proud of our sustainability certifications, and we got an A- from Ellen for our circularity, and we've got some really good international recognition for our
Hey, Bridgett, yes. I think YouTube might still be playing. Hold on a second. What is happening there? Let's just turn that off.
Oh, I thought that was maybe the sign that you need to get off.
No, I thought you were playing another video. So okay, never had that happen, but let's go back here and have you pick it up.
Well, you know, we're all excited. Transparency really is the new business standard. We're super excited to be listed on the Sustainable Minds catalog. We've gotten a lot of good, these are our other things. We're in the process of getting recycled content certification. And as I said before, we got an A- on our Circulate score from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation for our circular business model and our sort of internal commitment to circularity, not only with our product, but the way we run our business. We've gotten a lot of international recognition. We most recently were featured in Globally Great, which is out of Abu Dhabi. And there's a great little film on the Prince of Wales Sustainable Markets Initiative, and we were a finalist at Plug and Play. We've been involved with the partnership on the new recycled materials standard, and we're involved with the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, the American Chemistry Council, and we are a featured manufacturer in the materials recovery for the future. So proud of what we've done, and this is what we're trying to do: take a very ubiquitous material and turn it into something wonderful. We've got a great team, and we are absolutely committed to circularity, sustainability at scale, and being totally transparent. I want to thank everybody for their time today and pass it over to Earl.
Thank you very much, Bridgett.
Take it away, Earl.
Sure. Good morning. Tough acts to follow. I'm excited and humbled to be part of this panel. I first wanted to say how grateful I am to be speaking along with Bridgett and Francis. It's amazing to hear what you both are doing to move the built landscape forward towards greater sustainability. I wanted to highlight Terry and the Sustainable Minds team and thank them for everything that they do. We at FreeAxez started our journey as a company over 20 years ago, but our journey towards finding sustainability partners just started about a year ago. And we talked to many different people who didn't quite get what we do or what we are doing and why we were doing what we do. Terry stood out above them all as an enthusiastic, passionate believer, and I wanted to thank her for having me today. Today, my presentation is going to focus on introducing you to the grid adaptive cabling distribution system, which is our primary system, started almost 25 years ago, as well as some case studies where we have been a whole building solution for clients. My name is Earl Geertgens, and I'm the founder and current president and CEO of FreeAxez, LLC. FreeAxez is a US-based manufacturer of the grid and grid power systems. We brought the revolutionary adaptive cabling distribution system to the marketplace over 2 decades ago. The phrase circular economy is, of course, getting a lot of traction right now. And while the specific term circular economy is new to me personally, what we've been doing at FreeAxez for over 2 decades, how we think fits hand in glove with what is evolving to be understood as the circular economy. You could say we were country before country was cool. I started FreeAxez when I noticed inefficiencies during the construction and renovation process. And after school, I worked as a carpenter and general contractor and redeveloped and restored approximately 150 units of historic real estate during my 20s and early 30s. During that time, I noticed a lack of communication between electricians, carpenters, architects, and facility managers. After completion of a project, when the occupants would finally take possession of the space and requested changes, an electrician would inevitably have to bring his cart and ladder on a Saturday night after hours and proceed to tear apart the inside of the facility to perform their scope, creating substantial waste and inefficient labor and energy usage. It's not the tradespeople or electricians' fault. It's just the way that things have always been done. And it's difficult to change mindsets and building practices, as I'm sure everyone on the meeting can attest today. This photos here is not what grid is. I knew that the built landscape needed a change. And when I started FreeAxez, it was 6 months before Google launched and 10 years before the first iPhone. Technology was not the dominant driver it is today. My intent was never to build an improved raised access floor, as you can see above, but to create a cable management system, eliminating the need to cut concrete, core drill, or get on a ladder and work up in a drop ceiling in cable trays. In other words, we're not and never have been trying to be a competitor to Tate or a Hayworth type raised access floor. That is not how I see it. Those systems were invented in the mid-1960s when computers were first invented. The design intent of a traditional raised access floor had nothing to do with cable management and was 100% tied to the need to create a sealed airspace to cool down mainframe computers that generated so much heat that they were overheating and blowing diodes within an hour of being turned on. The grid systems, as contrast, has nothing to do with cooling, but instead allow for efficient installation and space reconfiguration of cables. Because we are unlike any other system out there, we had to do a lot of trailblazing to get where we are today. In May of 2004, I wrote a letter to CSI. They were kind enough to reply 5.5 years later in December of 2009. It takes a while, which is when they created a new category more appropriate for grid. Since that time, we're in a new category, 096933, which differentiates grid from those traditional raised computer room floors with the description low profile, fixed height access flooring. We're the only system in the world that's UL listed, which was also a very challenging first. For decades, every raised access floor in the world had a requirement to be grounded. In our UL listing, it clearly states that we are not required to be grounded and that we do not create a sealed airspace. And as a result, our clients, if they choose, are permitted to use non-plenum-rated cable, which eliminates toxins from the built environment. Obviously, a great thing for the ozone. This is grid. This is our system that we started with. Grid installs swiftly and efficiently and allows for easy reconfigurations to adapt to changing technology. The system is 100% steel, made in the USA. We're very proud of that. The system has a unique design. There are no glue, screws, or fasteners to it. Since it does not attach to the building, it can depreciate as equipment. It is an option to the client and architect to be part of the FF&E package. Grid Power is the next system we developed, which is a 50 amp electrical bus, the ultimate in flexibility. It is a pre-engineered system like the grid floor. It allows you to create custom projects with standard parts, which we believe is a key tenet of the circular economy. Grid Mobile is our mobile app. It's a solution for supporting the life of the facility and empowering the facility team to easily manage change by providing as-built and technical data at their fingertips. Frances had mentioned in her presentation the process of scanning QR codes to share information about reusing products, and we incorporate that same QR code identification right on the Grid Mobile app and all of our parts. Our Grid Mobile app works to extend usability and information sharing between the tradespeople, technicians, facility managers, architects, and owners, so that every member in the facility ecosystem can be informed in real time. What we have found is that if we can take care of Bob the electrician, Bob will take care of our clients. This promotes infinite reuse because information about their system is available in the palm of their hand. The electrician can literally use the Grid Mobile app to see through the carpet into the floor, see the cable runs without having to tear the facility apart. Most recently, just this past month, we have announced the modular demountable glass pop-up room that can either be freestanding or create private office partitions. We are calling it room within a room. It is an integrated and pre-engineered system that allows for flexibility of space because it is sleek, frameless, mobile room that has no adhesives. We're very excited for this and to continue evolving to technology changes to provide flexibility and sustainability. It's a single point of control and delivery, eliminating coordination issues between different vendors and trades. 99% of the floor plan of our system of any project use the same 3 components. So again, we're building custom projects with standard parts. Grid is made up of these 3 main components. Again, is the key tenet of the circular economy. The base unit is the structural element that raises the floor either 1.6 or 2.75 inches off the floor. The channel plate connects the base unit, and the corner plate brings all the pieces together, and again requires no glue, screws, or fasteners, just your thumbnail. This is a photo of a project in Palo Alto, California many years ago for SAP. The green paint or the white spaces in between, every 19.5 inches on the X and Y axis, you have a cable pathway, and no tools are required to access the cable pathways. It's just a thumbnail lift. This forces the organization of cabling and creates natural separation of power and voltage. This is typically needed to be in a cable tray. You can open 15 feet in a matter of seconds. It's like a kid's Lego set. Again, there's no deterioration of a system when opening and closing, providing an infinite number of changes. Grid also has superior acoustics because of features that are inherently built into the system. Grid has been used for many years in broadcast recording studios across the country. In New York City, CBS, ABC, NBC, NPR, and ESPN all use the Grid in their studios. We're currently undergoing testing just this very week in Cortland, New York at Intertext Labs to quantify the acoustics. I was there for the last couple of days, and the test showed that our system using a carpet tile as well as LVT was actually reducing the dBs by 4 dBs as compared to that same floor covering on the concrete. So it's the reverse of what you would think. When we first started, people didn't understand the need for our system because organizations didn't foresee the need for frequent change. Again, remember, back in the 1990s, there was no churn back then. Remember, what we learned is that people didn't change because they couldn't. It was too costly. With the Grid system, it is no longer cost prohibitive for the organizations to adapt to different drivers of change, whether it be technology, organizational, environmental, design, or whatever the case may be. Grid provides that power to change. Many people think that construction of a shell of a building is the most cost or more costly, but the actual costs that start accruing on day one after substantial completion are significantly greater. This chart is from the National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2016. We're excited to share that we are about to embark on a journey of a comparative LCA. What we are most enthusiastic is to quantify is how many guys in pickup trucks are not going to have to drive at 5 a.m. to a job site every 10 years for 3.5 months straight to reconfigure for a new tenant. How many dumpsters will not be needed? How much other construction and electrical materials will not be needed each time there's churn over the coming decades? With Grid, there is an avoided impact of carbon emissions and waste for the life cycle of the building. We will keep you posted on the results of that comparative LCA. When we started 20 years ago, people believed that Grid was a niche product for computer rooms or data centers. That obviously isn't how I saw it. Grid can be used in virtually every building type that an architect designs and is a whole building solution to outdated methods of permanent cabling. We really started out as an alternate to core drilling and trenching. Grid and Grid Power is used in the entire HQ campus for Google in Sunnyvale, California. It's a project called Moffett Place. Google wanted their Googlers to be able to relocate their desks anytime, anywhere, even this afternoon, if they chose, and they can do it by themselves without bothering facilities. Grid and Grid Power are also used in the Netflix headquarters in West LA. As you can imagine, Netflix has experienced tremendous growth. Onboarding new personnel and restructuring departments was routine. They were able to reconfigure that entire floor plan over a weekend. Starting on a Friday, the team would leave their desk contents packed in boxes. On Friday night, this furniture vendor would come and break down the furniture. On Saturday, they would reconfigure power and data in the grid system. On Sunday, relocate the furniture and test the systems. Then they would move in the personal boxes again. On Monday morning, the facility was fully operational again. This obviously would be impossible if they didn't have our system, the grid systems in place. The Museum of the Bible was a super exciting project in Washington, D.C. They selected the grid system so that they would have the lifetime of flexibility of the displays. There are obviously many traveling exhibits in those spaces. And in addition to power and data, we can also be used in laboratories with, hoses and liquids and oxygen pipes and things like that. Here you can see the setup of an exhibit and cabling using grid. Once the exhibit is over or the museum wants to make changes to the floor layout, they can easily reconfigure the cabling. In case of museums and labs, you can run things through the grid floor other than cabling. A super exciting project we completed this past summer, SMU in Dallas built a new facility for their computer gaming program. There were 3 different low voltage contractors working on this project. It was very complex. One of those subs, project managers, used the term harmony in quotes when describing what FreeAxez brought to this project. Grid and grid power were selected along with the Hayworth demountable walls. SMU wanted the flexibility to change the floor plan every semester to support the curriculum requirements. As I mentioned earlier, we recently went live with our HPD, and our EPD is soon to follow. Our next transparency step is to undergo a comparative LCA. We're real excited about. Stay tuned. We are committed to continuing to evaluate and improve our green initiatives. We are listed in the Sustainable Minds Transparency Catalog, and you can find us. Our CSI number is 096933. You can find us with that number in many different directories. As I've been sharing, FreeAxez fundamental beliefs have always been rooted in saving time, resources, and money. It was the driver when we got started. Grid is produced with a blend of recycled and regionally sourced steel. The scrap from manufacturing is collected and sent to a local recycling facility, of course. To reduce impacts from transportation, FreeAxez routinely ships direct from the production facility to install site using intermodal transportation, which minimizes logistical midpoints and reduces carbon emissions. Simple installation and reconfiguration process require no special tools, glues, or fasteners, which mean the system can be reconfigured and reused an infinite number of times. Because our system is so quick to install, it reduces the time in the schedule, saving substantial completion, energy, and labor costs. We also have a recycling program since we began for our packaging and installation. Grid superior durability allows it to be completely reusable without refurbishment, or it can be recycled. We also, for many years, have had a no questions asked buyback program. The Grid mobile subscription program offers a lifetime product warranty. I'm closing now. I'm inspired by the initiatives of Bridgett and Francis to repurpose the building materials to give them another life instead of going to the landfill. It is my belief that in order to change the built environment and work towards a circular economy, we need to shift manufacturers' mindsets to think about the avoided impacts, and circular economy advocates must challenge the manufacturing community to make more durable, standardized components. This needs to be a generational shift in thought process to move towards thinking about the life cycle of buildings and beyond. This requires tenacity in the short run and a very long-term horizon. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Earl. And Francis and Bridgett, all 3 of you have really, I think, delivered super inspiring stories today. And I can't imagine anyone who attended hasn't learned something new. I'm going to jump over here to the Transparency Catalog and do a quick demo just to show folks how you're going to find those products from FreeAxez and Continuus materials. And there's a bunch of different ways you can get there in the catalog. Back in September, we introduced our version 3, where we moved this master format filtering and search combined right here at the top of the screen to make it super easy for people coming in any stage of the project, whether they're doing early stage design or whether they're doing specification for a project. You can combine master format filtering at the division level, the section level, and you can actually put in a brand, or you don't have to put in a brand. I'm not even going to put in a brand. Let's just go and see all the manufacturers in 0960. So flooring, that's a very big section. You can see 169 brands, over 14,000 products, and the transparency catalog, keep in mind, contains every single manufacturer who has invested in one or both types of transparency, either EPDs, environmental performance, or material ingredients. And now if you're working on a specification and you're looking for different types of flooring products, you can look through all of the sections in 0960. And the reason we designed the filter this way, so that you're going to see everything in 0960 and then turn off the types of flooring you may not be looking for 2 reasons. One is to find solutions to a design problem or a specification that you might not have known existed, but also to find brands that you didn't know existed. So I'm not looking for wood flooring. I'm not looking for resilient. I'm not looking for terrazzo right now, but I am looking for access flooring. And so you can see, we wait for the catalog to catch up. We've got 0969 access flooring, and right there, 096933 is the master format section that Earl petitioned CSI to add. And let's just see if there's any other manufacturers. Nope, FreeAxez, the only manufacturer with products with transparency information in 096933. And as Earl mentioned, come back in the next couple of weeks, we will be launching their EPD, and FreeAxez is going to become a featured brand in the catalog, so you'll be able to access a lot more content about them, as well as get directly into their websites. I'm going to go back and look at Division 7, a really, really significantly large division. So Division 7, Division 9 typically are neck and neck for the most traction, the most traffic, the most searches. You can see Division 7, 201 brands, over 17,000 products. Again, every single brand in North America investing in product transparency. You can see all of them here. Click on the ones you might want to look at, or you can use the master format filtering. And let's look at 0730. And can you remind me, Bridgett? Let's see, here's the thing to do.
Just look up Continuus.
We're going to look up Continuus. And actually, if I just clear filters and do Division 7, you might, if you say, hey, I'm not sure which section they're in, but I also add that keyword. There we go, there's Continuus materials. And as Bridgett showed, that Everboard product has many applications. It has the built-up roofing, so it's 0751, modified membrane roofing, 0752, 0754, thermoplastic. So manufacturers can add their products in every master format section that will fit the specification, the functional requirements for that specification for that section. So making it easy for anybody to find all the products in a master format division or section when they're working on a specification. And again, potentially finding brands that they didn't know about. There's a lot of different ways you can find brands and products, whether you want to select by rating system, credits, disclosure types. You can select a master format division, yes or no. Anyway, we're at the top of our time. We are going to be doing many more webinars with tips and tricks of how to use the catalog. We've implemented a lot of new functionality to get quicker access to the quality of the data. We'll be doing more webinars also to show the manufacturer's analytics dashboard so you can see some of the activity that we're seeing and that the manufacturers are seeing, where people are going, what they're looking at. It is pretty interesting. And I want to thank everybody today for participating in the webinar and for attending. I know everybody's busy. And on your way out, please, if you have a moment to answer the questions, leave us some notes. We'll get back to you with any questions you might have left. And look for the recording. Thanks a lot and have a great day, Bridgett, Francis, and Earl. Thanks again.